questions and we give you real solutions and answers to just those. My name is Atmala Kivilode. Of course, our mission is to transform Uganda's economy a business at a time. So today we have a question from Mr. Steven. Let's take a listen.
My name is Steven. I would like to venture into real estate. May I know the dynamics in the business before I get into it? Thank you.
Steven, thank you so much for that question. Very important question right there. And I'm happy that you get to actually ask for advice before you put in your monies. It's very important to understand the area you want to invest in before you actually do the initial act of putting in your monies. So I did a very important thing, and that is to bring you a player in the real estate sector. And so in studios, I'm joined by engineer Chepsikor Agri. Thank you so much for making time.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome too. Of course, right here we always look at questions coming from the viewers, sure. And they said, can you see that number on the screen? That's what they use. Okay. They send in the voice note or the video recording asking sure. their questions, and we get to give them solutions. But for real estate has a number of dynamics. It's complex, so to speak, especially in the country. And in East Africa, we actually, put at the topmost in terms of the peculiar finishings that we have on our buildings. Okay. So let's talk about real estate. He wants to get into the real estate, sector. He's not yet put in his monies, but wants to know the ABCs of getting into that space. What would you tell him?
So I think we first need to understand what real estate is. Real estate is basically land, or land with buildings, or it can be land with other properties. It might be a park or sorts. It doesn't necessarily have to be only buildings. So it's quite a wide area. And for someone looking to invest in real estate, they kind of have to be sure where they're heading. In real estate, if you're investing in land, maybe you're looking at buying land and dividing it into plots and selling it in the long run. And that is a very wide area. I mean, it depends on how much money you have. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking to buy land and maybe build a building on it and sell it, that's also very wide. I mean, there are different types of buildings. We have residential buildings, we have commercial buildings. So it depends exactly where you want to fall. Normally, for people who are just starting off, it might be wise to start on something small. Something small, for example? Yes. So you can say maybe, I'll buy land. I'll buy land maybe somewhere out of town, say a place like Matuga, invest maybe in about 10 acres. But this needs speculation. Mm-hmm. You have to be sure that where you're buying is going to be prime in future. Otherwise, you'll be making losses, or you'll take so long to get returns. So the logic is being able to speculate that I need to buy land, but where should I buy the land? Are we going to have accessibility in that area in future? Are we going to have services, electricity and water? When people are buying land, the main thing they look for is accessibility, electricity and water. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to invest in land, that is one thing you need to look into. And then if you're going to invest in buildings, for instance, first define what your target market is. If your target market is individuals who want to own homes, then you know you're looking for residential investments. And residential can be either residential houses or apartments. So all this is determined by how much money you have. Right. Yes. Okay. And so you say for the beginner, it's actually prudent to just start with buying land for speculation, maybe subdivide it and sell in bits, as as of course land appreciates. Let's look at, of course, that's the entry point. Like you're saying, it's actually an easy sale. Yes, yes. How much should he have for starters? Pretty much. Maybe in some place where it's not so common and land is cheap. How much roughly are we talking about? Well, to be sincere, I mean, for real estate, you can start with any amount of money you have. Someone can have 5 million shillings. They will go out of town in Zimbabwe and buy maybe 2 acres at 5 million shillings. But it's far from town. But if you're looking at a long-term investment, you know that maybe in about 10 years' time, there will be some development there, can be able to sell it off for a better price. But then, if you want something that gives you more returns, that means you need a higher investment. That means you have some good capital to invest in a much more expensive property. You don't have to go very far from town. You can say, for instance, I'll buy land in a place like Chira, because that's like an upcoming neighborhood, and you're very sure that it's going to sell because it's already developing. It's going to be one of the best neighborhoods in a few years' time. So you're looking at having at least some good capital, first of all, to buy the land,
right,
and maybe build. So, for example, if you want to build a residence and sell it, you know that you might need about 400 million to invest, and then maybe you can sell it for 600 million. But you see, what matters is that you have the capital.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's look at the other option. Of course, in real estate, there are different players in there.
Yeah.
Maybe, could be, we don't know. He wasn't very specific, but maybe he wants to be a broker or a real estate agent.
Yeah.
What are the in or entry points for him?
Well, talking about brokers, brokerage is one of the most paying jobs right now in this town.
Talk about it.
Yes. So I think we might be in the wrong profession. We should be brokerage. But yeah, so starting as a broker it might be a tricky market, because I'm not so familiar how brokers go around their business. But all I know is that they have an association where you register with them and get involved in what they do. I'm sure you pay some fees or sorts to get involved. But now they are what they call property managers. Those are now what they call high-end brokers. We have big companies like Knight Frank, for example. In a developed world, you have to be at least a well-registered company to be a broker. But we might not be doing it here in Uganda because we are still a developing country. But a company like Knight Frank is a big organization. You need to invest a lot to reach that standard, whereby you know that your clientele is a high-end clientele. You're looking at selling properties of almost $10 million and above, or maybe if it is less, maybe $1 million. So it just depends on where you want to fall. But for a person who is starting and we assume that maybe he has no money or is starting at a very low level, then you can start by just looking out for renters available for rent, then marketing them out. That's brokerage. Market them out, get a client, take the client to the owner of the building, and you make your commission.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Commission of how much? What percentage are we looking at?
The standard commission for well-organized estates or developed areas is normally 5%. If I'm going to buy a property at 100 million, I know the broker is supposed to get 5 million out of that. But the person who is buying the property is not the person that pays the broker. It's the person receiving the money.
Right.
That means it's the person who is selling the property. So there's this thing around town whereby someone looks for a house and then the broker wants them to pay them. But under normal circumstances, it's supposed to be the person selling the building to pay the broker,
right,
because he's the one receiving the money. Yes.
Interesting. And so that is property for sale. How about a broker who just wants to deal with rentals, for example, rentals in the residential apartments or commercial buildings, so to speak? Is it still 5% commission?
Well, that percentage might differ.
Okay.
It comes down to the type of property. If I'm going to get a small house that I'm going to pay 100,000 for, you cannot give the broker 5%. That's 5,000 shillings.
Is it a percentage on the monthly rent or
yes,
the installment for? Is it? They always say that if you want to stay in my house, you have to pay. Is it 3 months or even 10 months
yes,
prior? So what is it? Is it that percentage of what? It's
normally a percentage of the monthly rent.
Okay.
Yes, but it's higher than when you're selling property. If you're making a sale, it's a different. That's 5%. But if it's a rental property, it might be as high as 20 or 30%. Yes. So if I'm going to rent a house of, let's say, 1 million shillings, I know maybe the broker will get 300,000 for getting me that property. Yes.
Okay. We know that the real estate sector pretty much thrives on trust.
Yes.
There are huge monies that we talk about when it comes to real estate, and trust is a huge thing.
Yes.
But how can Stephen, the person who asked this question, how can he go about protecting himself from unscrupulous dealers? Because there are also many in this sector.
So the best thing for someone to do who is just getting into real estate is to use a lawyer. I mean, there are very many con men in town.
Yeah.
You will buy property and you think you have property, but before you know it, you don't have any property. But if you use the lawyer, you know at least the lawyer will follow that up for you. And you see, the lawyer has the responsibility to do due diligence, find out if the land is real, if the owner of the person selling the property is actually the owner of the property, and those kind of things. So you make sure that the lawyer does this bit, you pay the lawyer for his services, but you know that you've got the right property. Should something go wrong along the way, it is the lawyer's responsibility to follow it up.
So, and if I'm a broker, is it important for me to draft an agreement between myself and the owner of this property, for example?
Under normal circumstances, yes. But I will not want to dwell so much into that because I'm not so familiar with that.
Okay.
But I do know that if I'm the one going to buy the property, I'll have an agreement with my lawyer. Then my lawyer will draft an agreement between me and the seller. And it's my lawyer overseeing that. Or it might be the lawyer of the seller. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for a broker, I also need to make sure that there are measures to protect myself, because I can actually get a client to this particular landlord and
Correct.
he plays me.
Correct.
He fails to pay me my commission pretty
So
much.
a broker should also do due diligence.
Okay.
You don't just go around marketing a property that is on sale. If you're actually a serious broker, you need to find out, one, is the person selling the property the owner of that property? You might be trying to sell property from another broker. You get, yes, so those kind of things. You have to look into very many things as a broker. Yeah.
Interesting. So brokers, can you hear that? It's important for you guys to actually get to know if that guy you're selling land for or selling property for is the actual owner
Yeah.
of that particular property. Very important. As we bring this to a close, what would you tell the viewers or Mr. Stephen talking today? We've looked at options of him getting into, being a broker. We've looked at options of him buying land for speculation such that it, gains and grows value, and maybe he subdivides it and, sells it off or actually develops the land. We've looked at options where he can build, sell or rent,
Yes.
build for sale or rent. We've also looked at options where he can buy for sale or rent. What other things should he put into perspective?
Okay, so let me highlight some of the key items that he needs to look into.
Great.
Number one is, if you're going to buy property, you need to make sure the location is perfect, right? Location is the most important thing about property. If you get the location right, then you're good to go. If you get the location wrong, you'll invest highly and you'll not make returns. So what the most important thing is location. Get the right location. Number two, make sure you have the capital, right? If you might buy a property but you cannot invest on it, and before you know it, your money has gone to waste. So make sure you have capital. At least have 20%. I know banks are willing to invest in your property if they know there's a high return. So have part of the capital to start the investment, then go for a bank loan or something like that, or a mortgage if possible. Number three, make sure you have a unique product. If you're going to build a residence for sale, don't build a normal residence that everyone sees everywhere. Build something special that can attract someone to buy it, right? I don't want to come put 500 million shillings on a house, but it looks like for everybody around.
Right.
Yes. So build something that is unique. Have architects who can design for your good property. Have a construction manager who can manage for you the project. Have a contractor who can build for you the right product. Yes.
And that goes with your niche, your target market as well.
Exactly.
Because maybe you might be targeting the low end.
So exactly. The other thing I was going to talk about is your target market. Who are you targeting? Who you're targeting actually determines what you want to invest in. If my target is to target a guy who is downtown, I know that I'm going to build retail shops. Yes, which are low cost. Yes. So there are quite a number of items that I can talk about. The other things that you also need to look at is, if you're starting this business, start small. Don't put all your chunk of money there.
Key.
You can go
Start
wrong.
small.
Yes. Try out first, if you have some good amount of money, at least first try out something small. If it works well, then go into it. As a person in the construction industry, I'm very familiar with the cost of construction.
Right.
So you might go thinking that I'm going to spend 200 million to build this building, and before you know it, just cost you 500 million shillings. If you had intended to sell it for 300 million shillings, and now you're trying to sell it for 600 million shillings, and you're failing to get a buyer, that means you're making losses.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Talk about leases as we come to a close. How do they work?
Leases. So let me start with land. You can lease land.
Right.
Maybe from an organization, from the government. I think, for example, if you're not a Ugandan, you're not allowed to own property forever. You lease it. So they can give you a 50-year lease. So if you're going to invest, for example, if you're not a Ugandan, you know that you're investing, but it's for a certain period of time. It's not yours forever. So when you're investing in that property, you're going to lease it, but make sure that you're able to get back your money in that period of time. Someone can give you a plot of land to use, maybe for 10 years. That's a lease. I'm leasing it to you for 10 years. I want this amount of money, but after 10 years, the property is mine, and whatever is on the property is mine. So if
Say that again.
Yes. if I'm giving you my land, I can't invest in it right now, but I'm like, have it, develop it, do whatever you want to do.
Right.
But after 10 years, I'm coming back for my land, and whatever is on it is mine. Yes. If you have built a structure on it, then that's my structure.
Yeah.
So you make sure that if you're doing that type of business, you've got back your money by the time he comes back for his property, because he can decide not to extend the lease. Right?
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so
We've learned quite a bit. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something before we come to close?
Yes. If you're going to invest in real estate, look at rate of return. If rate of return is more than 8 years, I would suggest that you do something different. If you can't get back your money in 8 years, then invest somewhere else.
You've heard it. You've heard it from the horse's mouth. If you can't get your monies back in 8 years, look at something totally different. Yeah. So it actually begs for a lot of due diligence and market survey, and doing your research a lot, getting to know that my monies will actually come back. If not, leave it to the pros.
Leave it to the pros.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Engineer Chepsikor Agri. He is a player in the real estate sector here in the country. Mr. Stephen, have you got your answers? Yes. In case you still have more questions, the number is on your screen, 0750-933-088. And for you, the business person watching us today, just do that. If you have a challenge that you're facing in your business, just do that. Take your smartphone, do a voice recording or a video recording, send it to that WhatsApp number, and right here we'll be sure to give you solutions just for those. With our mission to transform our country's economy, a business at a time, and it starts with your business. That's it for Morning at NTV this particular morning. Thank you so much for being part of us. The hashtag has always been and will always be Morning at NTV. We look forward to having your company tomorrow, same time, 6:30 to 9 a.m. Have a blessed day.
Watching Morning at NTV.